30 years, so that now nationally, adjunct faculty make up 50% of teaching faculty in higher education. I know from Boise State's perspective, we are in line with that national average. And so while they're 50% of the teaching population, they are not necessarily represented in that way in faculty governance. And so there are actually, even here within the 3 institutions that collaborate on this conference, Boise State, CWI, and NNU, different ways that those institutions have approached the idea of representing adjunct faculty and hearing those voices. So we thought we'd bring those people together and talk a little bit about how it works on their campus, and then also have a chance for you to ask some questions and or get some information about how you could be involved in those kinds of conversations at your institution. So I'm going to pass the mic down and have each person just briefly introduce yourself, and then we'll start again to kind of talk about how faculty involvement in faculty governance works at each institution. So name and the institution that you represent, please.
Hi, I'm Nicole Yadlin. I teach at both Boise State and CWI, but I am currently an adjunct faculty senate rep for CWI. Hi, I'm Stephanie Barham. I teach for the business department here at CWI, and then also as Steve Henniger as an adjunct there as well.
Hi there, I'm Carissa Wolf, and I teach in the Sociology and Communication departments at Boise State University, and I am the past faculty senate adjunct representative.
My name is Jesse Buckles. I work at NNU. That's all I got.
Great. So, and there will be a reason for the kind of laugh line there, Jesse, just saying this from NNU when we get back down to that. So my first question for the panelists was just to talk a little bit about what their role means. So what is their role in faculty government at their institution? What does that look like at their institution? So how are adjunct faculty, not only what are they doing, but how does that represent adjunct faculty across the institution? And then maybe a strength of their system or something they'd like to see improved or expanded. So just get a general sense of kind of what faculty representation looks like for adjunct faculty. So each of you would take about 5 to 7 minutes to talk about what it looks like.
Okay. Oh my God.
Or less. Less is also fine. No more than. So just a summary. What does adjunct faculty representation look like at your institution?
There's 2 of us,
So as you can share,
Yeah.
so we're both faculty senators for adjuncts here at CWI. So we've been working together to come up with different surveys to find out what adjuncts really want, and then using those surveys to figure out, okay, what do we need to actually work on? What projects are out there for us to work on? We've been looking at figuring out some non-financial benefits, because financial benefits are always the best way to go with some of the way the school is going right now.
Responded to in the most positive fashion.
Yeah. So we've been looking at some non-financial benefits. There's been some talk between at the adjunct senate meeting of maybe a lecturer type position, and then looking at possibly like an extra tier for those who have been here for a long time and are already at that top tier. After research, we're still below the first level of BSU. Mm-hmm. We're still below the first level from BSU. So we're thinking we could at least propose to have an extra tier added, so maybe we can reach BSU's level.
And can you talk a little bit about how it's structured, so kind of how your group works with, if there's a larger faculty senate?
Yeah, so we sit on faculty senate along with the full-time faculty members from the different departments. We've also got a library rep who sits in with us, and back there. And so we meet once a month. Occasionally we have other working sessions that we tend to, that we'll go to as well, but ultimately it's typically an hour and a half once a month. And then we head up the adjunct committee, small but mighty. If you're looking for places to serve, come join us. We're delightful. And that's usually about an additional hour a week. We will try and just coordinate with people's schedules to see what works best for them. And so we take what has kind of been discussed at Faculty Senate and bring it out to our adjunct community. An obstacle that comes along with that is we've got something like 500 members on our DG list.
What is DG?
Our distribution email lists, and so we don't always have a really accurate head count of adjuncts. And it's sometimes hard because adjuncts have such diverse backgrounds. There are some of us who are here because we want this to be our career. Some of us are here because we're retired and we're doing this to pass on additional knowledge. So everyone's coming in with a different background, and so everyone's coming in with a different level of what they are willing to participate in or even have interest in participating in. So we found that as kind of a bit of an obstacle in trying to get things done, but we are very grateful for our core team who's come alongside us to help us with putting together proposals, putting together surveys, interpreting that survey data, and then what we can do that comes after that. And then on the flip side, we also are available for adjuncts who have questions, concerns, whatever, and can bring that back up to Faculty Senate. We have found that Faculty Senate in general has been incredibly supportive of the adjunct faculty. I know a lot of full-time faculty were once adjuncts, and so they have been very, very supportive in our endeavors, very supportive in passing forward our proposals so that they can come to higher ups with Senate approval, and we're very grateful for them as well.
And how does your voting, what is your representation or percentage of voting on the larger Faculty Senate?
So we both get votes, but I think that everyone is an equal voting member as far as I know. We're all, so the two of us, so we do what we can for the adjuncts. And all the other departments get one person. Yeah, so we're still very much minority, but maybe one day we'll get 3 reps. No, maybe that's a future proposal. I don't know. We'll see.
Great, thank you. All right.
Okay. Well, I'm Carissa, and I spent this last year serving as the adjunct faculty representative for the Faculty Senate at Boise State University. And my first few meetings, I was kind of sitting there, not raising my hand for votes at all because we could not vote. And so at the beginning of this year, we won the right to have a vote on the Faculty Senate. And so that was a very big deal, something that has been pushed for and advocated for by my predecessors. I followed in the footsteps of Wendy Jacob, who was served as the adjunct faculty representative for a couple of years, and she was a force to be reckoned with as a former state representative. We were incredibly lucky to have her legislative knowledge and her advocacy ability in there, and it was really a lot of her hard work that gave us this right to vote. But it wasn't easily won. We went through several voting periods to try and get the faculty members to vote to allow the adjunct faculty to have a vote. And so there were a lot of ballots that were sent out electronically, and we would get responses, and it was an overwhelming response in support of having adjunct faculty vote on the Senate. But the problem is we couldn't get this approved because we didn't have enough votes coming in. And after a little bit of research and talking to some of the faculty who did not vote, we found out that there was a little bit of concern about the safety or the security, I should say, of online voting. So many were concerned that their identity would be revealed, and so on and so forth. So you got a lot of academics who look at all the possibilities and what could maybe go wrong. And so after really encouraging their colleagues, the senators on the Faculty Senate, we're finally able to get enough votes. And I don't remember exactly what the percentage was, but it was an overwhelming majority. There were very few that said no, the adjunct representative should not have a vote. And I think that really speaks to the overall embracing support that at least I feel as an adjunct faculty member at Boise State University, that our importance, our value, our hard work does not go unrecognized. And there's certainly a strong desire to see us rewarded and to reap some benefits from our hard work. I certainly felt that throughout my tenure on the faculty senate. So this year was the first year that we could have a vote, and I was reminded how government can be very detail oriented and not always very glamorous. I approached it as I'm a journalist in my other career, and so I walked into these meetings sort of thinking, what's the big headline going to be? What am I going to be communicating to my colleagues about what all happened here? And I'd leave and say, we spent the whole session changing one word in a policy, but that was a really important thing because it represents gender identity, equality, representation in our policies, and it's important to be inclusive like that. So sometimes we forget about how important one word change can be. But you can certainly spend a lot of time hashing over stuff. For years, I took for granted those academic calendars and even the wording in the academic calendars. We sort of hashed it out for a while over what to call deadbeat. And so, important stuff, but we kind of forget about it. They're not big headline makers, but overall, the accumulation of all of this work defines what our work schedules look like and our calendars look like and that sort of thing. I'll also have to admit that there were times that I sat in there and with a little bit of, sort of sadness that we were looking at things that, had nothing to do with adjuncts, and I wished that they did. We go over paternity leave and maternity leave and benefits issues, and of course that doesn't apply to adjuncts at all. And so, a good amount of my time in there was a reminder of how hard adjuncts work and how a lot of their pay is intrinsic in terms of the value that you bring to others and the joy that teaching can spark. I had actually, before I got into teaching, I covered the adjunct situation in Idaho as a reporter. And so this is almost 20 years ago. And I found out as a reporter, I didn't know a lot at the time about adjuncts before I started teaching and those sorts of things. But in my reporting, I did find that there was a lot of support of adjuncts. Students didn't know what our plight was at all. They had no clue what our reality was. I was able to talk to a lot of adjuncts. So when I signed up to be an adjunct, I knew what I was getting into. I could say I was not blind to that at all. But when I have learned over years of work and also through my reporting, that at BSU, the adjuncts are very much supported. They are very much valued. There is a desire to give them more and see them participate more and see them have more benefits. In some areas, hands are tied. A lot of the issues that affect adjuncts can be easily remedied with some more funding. And we all know what the funding situation looks like. So I do feel that we are very supported, that our voice is wanted, and that we are welcomed very much at the table. And a big response that I got from some of my colleagues on the Senate is, they were just really amazed and impressed that an adjunct would volunteer to do some service through Faculty Senate, because as you know, we don't have a service requirement for, so we're there doing these kinds of things that are our own free will and volunteering. And so they let me know that they're very cognizant of that. And some of them felt kind of guilty, I think, about giving me a workload of any kind. It's like, here because we want to be. But out of that also came, for the first time ever, the faculty adjunct representative will be getting a stipend for their work. So that's the new one. So getting that vote and then getting a stipend for the representative is a really huge thing, and I think that a big step forward. And it's kind of a long ways from when I met with some adjuncts a few years ago that were attempting to create kind of an adjunct union at Boise State University, and like 5 people showed up, and there was a reporter there, and nobody wanted to talk or say anything to the reporter. So I believe that things will continue to get better in terms of welcoming us into the fold, in terms of participating in government. I'm really excited about our new president at Boise State University, Dr. Trumpy. Had the opportunity to interview her. I interviewed her as an adjunct representative, so of course I had a lot of questions about how she would represent us. And I was really taken back by her support, by her understanding of our issues. I really liked that she climbed through the ranks of the UC system, so she had like every kind of job from a graduate assistant to being an adjunct and that sort of thing. And so she was really seeing herself in pretty much every level of rank at the university. And I think that she will an advocate for us as things continue to move forward.
Great, thank you.
And I also have to thank Teresa over here. So that's also one element of government that we can sort of forget about is our liaisons and our faculty and members that work in service capacity at the university that do amazing work trying to shape policy. And Teresa certainly doing that in terms of looking at the kind of new pay scale and other types of ways to reward faculty. So she's been a really important part of that voice that we had in terms of her coming into the Senate and communicating with us and keeping a line of communication open. So that's a big part I think that we forget about is sometimes that people are doing great stuff behind the scenes. So.
Thank you.
Hi. I feel like I need to qualify my previous comment because I didn't want it to sound trite, right? I'm up here like, hey, but it's interesting to see the dynamic of the people that are up here this morning because you have faculty representation from what I would see kind of as like the pinnacle or something to aspire to, right? You have the middle ground where there's things that are like our targeting process, there's things that happen, there's moving forward, and then you get kind of down here to the end of the table. And so anyways, so a little bit of history. When I started in the role that I currently have at the university, we had an adjunct distribution list that was of all time. So legitimately, if any person had ever been an adjunct or taught just a single course at the university, they were on this list. When I say to you that it just went on for pages and pages and legitimately scrolled forever. And that was my first indicator that we needed to fix something. And so over the last 3 years, there's been an effort to really try to bring out the adjunct's voice. Because for a long time, it was non-existent, right? And I don't say that to give a black eye to a situation that may already have one, but very much to bring light to an issue that there needs to be communication, right? These employees, these people that give their time, that pour into students and are part of a university should feel like they're part of the university. And so that's what we kind of made a mission and a goal of. And so we started communicating with our program coordinators and the people that would hire our adjuncts to get an up-to-date list. We started including them in all of our emails that would go out to faculty for possible training, right? We started to make things accessible and we started to make things virtual, right? Because we all know that we don't all necessarily teach in a face-to-face type of environment. And I know speaking from NNU, we have a lot of our adjuncts that aren't even from the Valley, right? We have people from all across the nation, sometimes even the world, depending on where they are or might be doing things. So that was a key component for us, is to try to build that communication line because it hadn't been there for so long. And just recently, excuse me, let me back up again. So then insert Teresa and Courtney into this conversation with this conference. And so that added an additional layer for us at NNU of an opportunity that we were able to provide something for our adjuncts to make them feel like they had another avenue, something else to either present at, something else to take part in, something else to go and get professional development, or to feel like they have something. And that allowed us, that opened doors for us to be able to have conversations with our administration to say, listen, we need to do better. We're making progress, but it's small increments, it's small steps. So a conversation, matter of fact, that I just was able to have about 10 days ago with our Vice President of Academic Affairs was to put a proposal together to present to our faculty senate on an adjunct spot for representation to our faculty. So somebody that would be able to come to faculty meetings, somebody that would be able to, again, relay information back, to be that voice for our adjunct population, to be able to speak into issues that directly affect them, to be able to talk about things that directly affect them, because as a faculty member, the things that directly affect you are not necessarily always the same as they are for a person that is not necessarily a full-time faculty member. And so again, it's bringing education to the rest of our population as well. So that for us has been monumental, I'll use that word, because we haven't had it for so long. And it's, again, so I love the dichotomy of where we are on the table. I think it's tremendous. And I'm really excited about moving forward. So again, being an adjunct myself in a capacity in one of the hats that I wear, and then also being able to see where we have the ability for growth and being able to move into that is really, really exciting.
So in a minute, I'm going to open it up to questions to see if there's things you'd like to know from your adjunct faculty representatives in whatever form they are taking today. But first, I mean, because part of the reason that we wanted to have this panel is so that people would know that these positions existed, that there was a place to go with questions or concerns or comments or ways to be involved in advocacy for adjunct faculty groups. So if each of you could just talk a little bit about if there's someone who's interested in being involved in these conversations at your institution, how should they get involved?
When we were talking about this question last week, when we were talking about this at our adjunct committee meeting, I think at the exact same time for those that come to adjunct committee meetings. I think there's a really important benefit of that face-to-face discussion about what can we do, because we have ideas, but you have ideas. We want to hear your ideas, and we want to know what you have cooking in your brains. Are there things that you want? And we've seen changes at the institution in terms of, added tiers. We've seen improvements in regards to adjunct offices and adjunct lockers and adjunct space for us to get our work done and to be able to meet with students. So we've seen some great improvements. There's obviously so much more that we can be doing. So come to meetings if you can't physically be there, email us and say, we've had people Skype in, we've had people call in, we will come to you within reason. We'll meet off campus if you want to get coffee. But I think just that show up and participate, I think that's huge.
Yeah. Currently, when we have our adjunct meetings, we only have between like 4 and 6 people who actually show up, and our DG list has 500 on it, and we're thinking there's around 400 some active adjuncts. So if we could get some more involvement from you guys to find out what you guys want us to do, that would be amazing.
Because we're here for you. We're your reps. I mean, we could easily just take power completely. But come let us know what we can do, because that's our job.
And our meetings are only 1 hour once a month, so you guys can volunteer some time to come handle us.
I'll bring cookies.
Yeah, I found at BNC that there's a lot of opportunities for adjuncts to get involved and to be represented and to have some say in what happens at the university. In fact, to the point that it really sort of surprised me, one thing that I found was the best way to be involved and be heard is to communicate with the chair of your department. You know, it's those chairs that are advocating for us, and they've gotten us more office space. They're advocating for us to, get the funding to create those lecturer positions when it's there, and that's really important. And also, fellow faculty members, tenure and tenure track faculty members can do amazing things. I really learned that we could do a lot just by walking in knocking on doors and creating alliances. About 5 years ago, I helped co-create the Idaho Media Initiative at Boise State University. What we are is an initiative that promotes media literacy and media education at Boise State University. So we needed a little bit of funding to do that, to get some workshops taught, to have some administrative costs covered and those sorts of things. And so I partnered with Seth Ashley in the communication department, who is a tenure track professor, And we ended up just knocking on President Kestra's door. And also we talked to provosts and deans along the way and told them what our ideas were and our vision for getting more media studies classes at Boise State University, essentially. He was able to find a little bit of money that had been donated that hadn't been dedicated to anything. And it was just a small amount of seed money, but nonetheless, it was enough money to get some photocopies covered and those little incidentals that you need to get initiative off the ground. And so, I thought, here I am, just an adjunct sitting with President Kestra, and he's giving me some money to play around with. I shouldn't say play around with, but to appropriate to promote media literacy and education at Boise State University. And so that was one way that I found that even though I wasn't tenured track, the university still saw that my ideas and contributions were important regardless of my rank, and they were ready to make things possible to achieve these goals. And so I encourage you all to think about that too, that if there's something that you want to do, if you think that there's something that needs to be done or improvements that need to be made or places where voices need to be heard, never doubt your ability to make things happen, and that there is support out there to get things done. And so there's alliances and allies and partnerships are really an important way to impact policy at universities also.
As we are starting, right, so this is like a startup, I'll use that terminology, right, we're a venture. I am more than happy for those of you that are working at NNU to be that person that you would contact or that person that you would ask for more information. More than happy if you would like to be or put your name in the ring or throw your hat out there to be that adjunct representative, if that's the road that you decide to go down, or however that is. More than happy to support you and stand behind you and put your name out there 100%. So like I said, this is 100%. I use that term twice. Sorry. Welcome to my statistics. This is just infancy, and so like I said, as we move and get this off the ground, we're just all going to kind of get in the same boat, right, and do it together.
Another way to get involved, obviously, is to run for adjunct representation. Yes, every 2 years there's an election. We're having one right now, so 2 years from now there's that opportunity. There is a stipend, and also one thing that I was really impressed with is the accessibility of the faculty senate to everyone else. If you want to be heard, you can contact the president and say, I have this concern. Can I address this in it? And you'll be given time on the floor to directly address the Senate. So definitely kind of just like other politics and democracy, get involved and show up.
Yeah, sure. I just want to kind of almost add on to that and that idea that I think for me one of the best things that I've gotten through my work with Senate is that it's gotten me to know people, full-time faculty outside of my department. I know the faculty in my department pretty well. I'm one of those adjuncts that kind of just shows up to everything. So I know my department really well, but a big complaint I think of adjuncts or a concern is that we do kind of feel somewhat isolated. We're not always required to come to these things, and so sometimes we don't. And we can sometimes feel like at these big college-wide meetings that we don't kind of like find our department chair, like, hi, can I stand with you? Because I know you. This has given us the opportunity to meet faculty members outside of our departments, and it's been really, it's been fascinating to learn about how their departments work, to learn about the ins and outs of how the school works and how the institution functions, for all the good ways that it functions and for all the ways where you're like, I did not want to see that sausage get made, but there it is, okay. Learning kind of the ins and outs of the institution has been really important. And I think you get a really good view of that, for better or for worse, as you, if you work through faculty senate or if you are getting involved in committees and things like that. So that would be my encouragement too. If Senate is not the route to go, just volunteering for things and getting to know how things work on your campus. I found maybe one of the most important benefits that I've received from the work that I've been doing. Are there questions from the floor or just in general about adjunct faculty representation or specific to the people who are here?
Teresa, my question is for you because I know that I think you are a liaison. So what is your title? What is your role? What do you do?
Sure.
Thank you.
So my work at Boise State is I'm based out of our Center for Teaching and Learning. My official title is Coordinator for Adjunct, Concurrent Enrollment, and Online Faculty. So my role is to support and provide support for those faculty groups. And that takes a wide variety of things. And kind of as Krista mentioned, a lot of that work focuses on the kind of professional development support that those faculty groups need. But also with the support of my supervisor, Susan Shadle, has involved fostering conversations about these larger adjunct faculty issues at our institution. And I've been doing that for about 5 years. And actually, I have to say, I'm really feeling like we're getting some momentum of people in departments having these conversations, a lot more people reaching out to me to say, hey, we're thinking about doing this, or now there's a variety of other places where I hear on campus that institutional research is looking at how do we think about adjunct faculty, or this other group is HR wants to have focus groups with adjunct faculty. And so there's a lot of places where I think the concerns are coming up and people are starting to really think about them, which has been great. Yeah, thank you. Other questions?
So I just wanted to say thank you so much for providing accessibility with the interpreters today so that I could be involved in this training. I feel like it's really important for the deaf adjuncts to have a voice in this type of setting. And especially with the discussion of accessibility on the different campuses, I feel like I can be part of the overall group. And because of that accessibility feature. But also it gives me the opportunity to, so I was also wanting to bring up maybe an idea of having a live streaming with like the different types of training or professional development, so that I would be able to log on from home and have like a caption situation where I could actually participate in trainings, but I wouldn't have to be on site. I feel like other deaf professors would also benefit and they would be able to be involved in this type of trainings as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And I'm glad that we were able to provide interpreters for you today. I know that at Boise State, and actually I know at CWI, a lot of our trainings are asynchronous on Blackboard. And I know that we've all been working on making those as accessible as possible. Also, Boise State, we've begun offering webinars that we haven't been able to live caption, but we're recording and adding captions to. Yes.
But if you are recording them, then you guys are you planning on having the captions happen at that?
Yes. And there's one online right now through Boise State that we did on mobile learning that has captions that is available. We did one earlier that we're in the process of captioning. But yes, that is something we need to continue to work on and improve on. So thank you for pointing that out.
Because I feel like it would be really beneficial, like especially for a conference like this. I can lead the group, and if I could lead it, but I could also let all the other instructors know and say, hey, there was a training that I just participated in. You can catch up and watch it yourself if the captions are there.
Yeah, great. Important note. Thank you so much for that. Other questions? Yeah.
Thank you for your work in supporting and representing adjuncts, office space, joint committees, things like that. I'm curious to know, what are you doing to support online adjunct faculty who never come to campus at all? So what are you doing to represent their unique needs?
At CWI a couple years ago, we worked with CTL to get an adjunct faculty Blackboard organization going, where people can post. We've got instructions there, like when you first have been hired, kind of the steps that you go through. There's information about the different campuses. There's information about tier pay. So if you're an online faculty member who's not coming to your regular department meetings, there's still information about that. It's definitely a work in progress. It's a lot of work, which again, two people can't always do all of that work ourselves, but we're building that so that's an online platform. And also it's a place where if there's something that you think would be valuable as an adjunct faculty to have for new faculty members or for anybody, then our contact email is there. So if there's something that needs added or information that you're not finding somewhere, we're happy to add that to that organization. The hope is that it's a place where Adjunct can build community when we're not all together in the same place. But again, it's just kind of it's a work in progress. So any suggestions you have for ways that we can better support those online faculty members is we are open and happy to talk about things that we can be doing, because I know that's a very unique and also a kind of isolating role where you don't really know who are your colleagues. It's hard to know that. So if there are suggestions or comments, then we'd love to hear them.
This is an area where there's a lot of opportunity, and we do need some representation. We need some people to speak up and stand up and say, this is an area that's important to me, and I would like to be an online instructor liaison to the faculty senate or something like that. And I'll have to admit that I have just been woken up to all the needs of online instruction. I started teaching online in 2017, and holy cow, it's really hard. Time consuming. It's a whole different, ball game, and I do feel like we need to come together. We need to create alliances, and we do need to create collaborations to support each other. And I'm just starting to do that with some of my colleagues, and I'm learning so much when I hear from someone that says, "Oh, they have this on your online class." It's like, I had no idea that was going on. And I heard you say the Office of that promotes continuing education for adjuncts. There are occasionally classes that help with online instruction and that sort of thing in conferences like today. So we need that, and I'm glad to see that. But here's an opportunity for people to step up. There's a need for that.
So for us too, we added a lot of online tools into our learning management system, because again, that's where all of our faculty, whether you're full-time or adjunct, you all live in that space. And so we started to provide a lot of our training there as well, so it was accessible for everyone. And then it's adding and building in tools for no matter if you teach face-to-face, no matter if you teach online. I teach an online remedial math class, so I completely understand, right, the need for really good professional development, especially in that space. So in our office, instructional design and technology, we've really focused and are continuing to focus on doing that to build out those tools, not just for our face-to-face or full-time faculty that are on campus, but for everybody. So no matter where you are, no matter who you are, if you teach for us, you have access to everything the same as anybody else will. And so that's what we've really started to work on. And it's an undertaking. It really is. Like, it is not, you get into it and you go, oh, there's like, we can do like 3 things. And then you sit down and go, oh no, there's like 500 things that we need to do. So it really is. And I agree. If there's a space that you feel you have expertise in, we will not turn away help, right? Like, it's not like, oh no, I got this. No, it's like, no, please take that. Like, and run, and I will support you, and we'll run the race. But please do. So that's really is. It's like it is. It's get involved. If you really do, if you want to see change, and you have the time, and even if you don't have the time, but you have the desire and the heart, the time will come.
And I'll say, speaking of taking the time and getting involved, we want to thank you all for being here for the conference today and taking the time to be involved in these conversations and the sessions that we have planned for today. I want to thank our panelists for being here and for the work that they do in their institutions. So I teach theater, so I feel like we need to applaud. Thank you. Thank you very much. Feel free as you're going between sessions today to pull someone aside and introduce yourself and ask further follow-up questions. But I also am cognizant of the time and want to make sure you all have a chance to transition to our first set of sessions, which start at 1:20. And so we will see you all back here again at 4 o'clock for our closing session. But until then, have a great time learning from each other. Thank you so much.